Hello, beautiful people. How are you all doing? I hope everyone is well. It's Rochelle Ray, your prosperous life coach, mental health counselor, and motivational speaker. So I just thought I'd check in, see how everyone is doing, and just to do a follow up to the video I did last week when I talked about how your mind matters. So I just wanted to pick up from there and just make sure you guys had some tools because one of the things I left you with from the last video was to be aware of what you're thinking about and to jot down either using a vocal journal, dictation, or voice memos on your phone, or to even just journal down. Sometimes we have certain events or circumstances that occur in life, and those are known as triggering events. And so when you have an event take place, it triggers you into this negative self-talk or the negative thoughts or negative emotions that you feel. And so that's why it's important to make sure that you have a good mental health because your mind matters. And also all of that that stirs up releases chemicals that can affect your body negatively if it's negative chemicals versus having the positive chemicals be released in your bloodstream, because that also plays a part in your overall well-being. So today I'm looking at my notes. So that's what's going on when I'm looking aside. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't go off on a tangent and that I stayed on topic and on point and delivered what it is that's needed to help you in having a healthier mind, which leads to a healthier you. And so, let's see. So we know that based off of the research that I mentioned from the article last time, that your mind and your thoughts, they affect your actions, your behaviors. So your negative thoughts, your negative self-talk leads to negative emotions, negative feelings, which then in turn affects your behavior. So a lot of times when these triggering events happen, you will be reactive instead of proactive. And by that I mean, okay, the negative event has taken place, whatever that may be for you, you can stop in that moment and take a deep breath. So it's important to breathe and to do some deep breathing. And what that'll do is slow everything down for you so you can make a conscious decision, an active decision, a proactive decision instead of reacting based off of everything that's going on, and you're just reacting towards that instead of saying, okay, no, let me calm myself down and do that. So in order to combat those negative self-thoughts, you have to condition your mind to respond. And it's not going to be easy. It is going to take some work. A lot of people who do this, they say it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Well, it may not work the first time. So you have to go back and do it. So that's the process of retraining your brain. And maybe the fifth time, the third time, oh, you were able to get so far and that worked. And then the next time, okay, you mastered that one phase of it. Now you can go to the second step and it'll get better over time. So don't feel like it's not working. It is working. You just have to be gentle with yourself. Think of it as you having a negative event, a negative trigger took place, and your friend came to you and spoke to you. What would you tell your friend to do? Would you be gentle with your friend and help them to kind of understand and figure out what's going on? Or are you just hard on them, beating them up, putting all of that additional pressure and stress on them? So you have to treat yourself in the same way. Be gentle with yourself, okay? You don't have to always beat yourself up. It's important that you do that. I can't stress that enough. And also, I mentioned how your self-talk demonstrates what's going on internally. So your internal world, what are you doing inside? What are you thinking inside? that affects your outside because it pours out, because what's in you is going to come out. So you want to make sure that you get your inside healthy, so that way you don't have to feel like you're going around in circles, like I take 2 steps forward and 10 back. That's why, because you're not making progress and you're in a cycle of just going around in a circle, going around in a circle. And then when you look up, it's like, oh, I'm back where I started. It's because you didn't have the tools to help you progress and come out of the circle and then start in a straight path. So that's why it's important. So having unhealthy thoughts leads to unhealthy actions, which cause most people to feel stuck in life. And then you have unrealized goals. So along with being in this cycle where you're going nowhere and you haven't made any progress, and you're like, back where I started from. So let's see. An example I can share with you is, I remember when I was in grade school, it's about maybe 6th, 7th grade. Math was a struggle for me. Sometimes, hey, I got it. Sometimes not. But I remember this one particular time I got an F on a math test, and I was just devastated. You know, when you're at that age, you're young, you haven't experienced much in life. And so to have an F was like, whoa, you know, that devastated me. I remember going home crying, you know, just getting upset because I got an F on that test and thinking that it was the end of the world, you know, for someone that's that young in the 6th, 7th grade. It's like, So, you know, how do you come back from that? What do you do? I remember, you know, having this negative self-talk, you know, why can't I ever get it right? You know, I'm a failure. What's wrong with you? You know, those are some of the things that we say. And if you don't get a handle on it, and if you pay attention to the words that you speak as an adult, you can see that you're probably still repeating some of those same phrases. And so that begins to set your belief system. So then when you get ready to do something you really want to do, and then you come up against some resistance, or you don't progress like you want, think about the things you're saying. It's because you have set that belief from that young of an age that you're a failure. You can't do it. What's wrong with you? That's the talk that you've been giving yourself. And so then you begin to believe it subconsciously, and now subconsciously you're acting out on those things. And so you have to change that. Or maybe as a kid, you heard someone tell you you were worthless. You'll never amount to anything. You're just like your mom or your dad. You know, if they did something negative, you know, and they always threw that in your face. So when you're that young and you're impressionable, you begin to believe those things. And then you begin to act on those things, which is known as a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then in addition to that, going back to that, I remember I went home, and when I made it home, I went to the restroom. So I was crying. I had shut myself in the restroom. You know, I was looking in the mirror, and then I just continued to say those negative things to myself. You know, that you're a failure. You can't get it right. And that could have been furthest from the truth. But because we're young and we don't have all of those experiences, you know, we tend to believe what we're telling ourselves, even though it's not the truth. And so this was all based on me getting an F from that test. Okay? So we know that none of those things are true. So let's break down that situation. And yours may be different of what you experience, but I wanted to use that as an example so you can see how this negative self-talk didn't just start when you became an adult, a teenager. It started even younger than that. And so you've been dealing with that and having that inside you all this time. And now when something goes wrong, that's what you're dealing with. And so let's break that down into several components. Okay, so we know what the situation was. The first thing was to identify the triggering event or the situation. So for me, getting an F on that test was my triggering event, the situation that caused me to enter in to that automatic negative mode, okay, that negative self-talk. And then because I was having this triggering event, it leads to my thoughts. So then I begin to not only just think it, but I got in front of the mirror. Now, how crazy is that? And then I'm beginning to program myself and say that to myself over and over again. And so you identify the situation. And then the next step is, okay, what's the thought? You repeat or say or write the thought, and then you're programming yourself. So just like you program yourself, you're going to have to deprogram or retrain your brain with the opposite information. And then you're going to have to do it with the same intensity, the same emotions and intensity that you feel when you're speaking those negative things to yourself, which solidifies that into your subconscious. So to retrain that, you're going to have to do or create the proper terms, the proper words with the same intensity in a positive way, and restructure your brain so subconsciously you latch on to that, and then you can begin to profess, confess, affirm, okay? And do all of that. And if you have to get back into a mirror to do it, then get back into a mirror to do it, or do it walking, because you want to get that seated in the center of you, into your innermost being, into your mind, just like you got the negative. And so it's going to take that in order to retrain. So the next time a triggering event comes, you don't go negative, but you go positive. And you say, okay, let me evaluate. Okay, so we identified the situation or the triggering event, and then let's look at the thoughts that I was having. Okay, and I kept repeating these thoughts. So last time I told you you could use your voice memo or a journal. So you would use the same thing to switch it positively, so you can have that in front of you, either in your ear or both, in your ear and visually in front of you, so that you can hear and see. And that's going to help with that. And so what were the thoughts that I had? I am a failure. I can't get anything right. What's wrong with me? So now that I have identified the thoughts that I had, and then I began to speak those thoughts, the next component is to identify what emotions were you having. So think about it. I was sad. I felt defeated, hopeless, stupid. What's wrong with me? Thinking there's something wrong with me and there's not. Okay, so those are the emotions. So we identified the triggering event, we identified the thoughts that I had and then began to speak out. And then we identified the emotions, the things that I was feeling, because all of that plays a part in getting that negative energy to flow and those negative emotions that affect your mood. And people are like, oh, I'm depressed, I'm sad. Well, it's because of what you're feeding yourself that keeps you stuck in that loop. So we know the emotions that play a part. Now let's think about the behaviors that I had. It was crying, I was talking to myself, and I was talking down to myself. And then in addition to that, I locked myself in the restroom. So all of those are negative behaviors. None of those behaviors are good. So we see how I had a triggering event, which led to my thought life that was negative. And then I'm speaking it. And then I'm behaving on it. So you see how all of those things lead to the other. So when this is healthy, then all of those other things that come behind it will be healthy. So now that we identified the behaviors, the next thing we want to do is retrain or rewrite our thoughts. Okay? So when we do that, like I just stated, then we'll see things change. And you have to be consistent. You have to keep practicing it. Now, I want to go back over the steps again, and I want to point out something that's going to be key to you doing so that it stays on a positive note, or that you stay even keel where you are when the event happens and not drop down. So when the triggering event happens, you want to stay level where you are when it happened, because you're in a good place, you're calm, and it's like, oh, something happened, and you want to stay here and go up and not down. Okay? So when you have something that triggers you and it takes you to that negative place and it doesn't keep you stable or looking at it from a positive or optimistic standpoint, this is what you're going to do. You're going to identify, oh, this is not good. I think it's going to go bad. You're going to take a deep breath before you respond. Take a deep breath. That's going to allow you time to pause and to remain calm and stay logical. Because when triggering events happen, you don't stay right here, which is your logical brain, your calm brain, where you can reason through and say, oh, this is the best course of action. So when you don't do that, your emotional brain kicks in and it has you going all over the place, running haywire and yelling and screaming and your voice elevating, wanting to pull your hair out, hit something. Okay, that's your emotional brain that's kicking in, and you don't want your emotional brain to kick in. So when you identify or you recognize that you're in a triggering event, take a deep breath. You can hold it for a count of 3 or 4. Just hold it. And do that until you feel yourself staying calm. So breathing is going to be important. After you identify the triggering event, think about what you're saying, or what was the first thought that came to your mind. Is it positive or is it negative? Take another deep breath. And do that as often as you need, because it's going to be beneficial to make sure that you stay on the right path and you stay right here. You don't want to drop, because that's when you go negative. You want to stay here. You stay here, you're doing good, because then that means you have control. You can take a handle over the situation and guide it the way that it needs to be guided. So once you do that, do a couple of, deep breaths. However it may take for you to get there, and stay calm. And then you're going to go back and focus on your thoughts. Okay, so you received a phone call and one of your friends was in a car accident. Okay, that can cause you to go, oh my God, they must be dead, or they're really hurt or broke, in harm's way or something. If you take a deep breath and calm yourself down, you can say, okay, I just got a call. My friend was in an accident. And instead of thinking the worst, you can think the best. Okay, they were hit. Maybe it's just a fender bender. Let me see if I can reach out and help them, instead of going on the deep end and just going totally negative and that type of situation. And so you take a deep breath and you be like, okay, everything's going to be all right, will be the positive side of that, instead of thinking the worst of that. And so I'm going to go back to the situation, the example I shared from my youth, from my childhood, and walk you through the steps, so that way you'll see an example fully played out, and then you'll be able to use it with yours. But that was just another thing I wanted to throw out there, because sometimes it's just something that may not be that serious, but we automatically go to the negative side, and we shouldn't. For example, some people may say, hey, such and such, your boss wants to see you, and they're calling you in the office, or they leave you a voicemail and say, hey, come to my office as soon as you get a free moment. What do we normally do? Oh, I'm in trouble. I must have did something wrong. And it could just be, maybe they just want to chat, or maybe they just want to say, hey, can you help out on this project? And it may not be anything bad at all. But if you have constantly noticed you have a negative frame of reference, you're going to automatically go there, and then you're going to begin to duck and dodge and try to make sure you don't see them in the hallway when you're going on your break, when you're going to lunch, that type of thing. And it's really nothing negative at all. They may just want to ask a question or get your input on something, or see if you're able to do something else, but yet we take it automatically negative, and we shouldn't. So that's why it's good to make sure you have a good mental health. And oftentimes, we don't separate ourselves from the event. Like when I had this failing grade I didn't separate that. I was the F. I did not separate me from that. And had I been emotionally intelligent in the sixth, seventh grade, I could have said, okay, it's just a test. I'll do better the next time, or I'll study harder. But you have to remember, you are not the event, okay? You are not the event. It's important to know that. So don't let the situation define you, okay? It's important to breathe at the onset of the event, okay? If you find yourself in a triggering event, breathing will allow you to stay focused, like I said, to keep you right here at a steady pace, at a steady calmness where you are when the event initially happens. And it means that you're going to breathe. Okay, so that's why that breathing is going to be useful. You're going to do this by taking a deep breath and holding it for a count of 3 to 5, and then slowly blow out through your mouth. Okay? So do that as often as you need, because you want to slow the process down. If you slow the process down, it makes it easier, to go forward and to break the cycle, because then you can begin to break it up and see the itty bitty parts, the small parts that are in there. And that's what you want to do, just like we did with the my event. And so after you do that, you're going to notice if you're going to go right into that negative self-talk. Then once you realize that you are, even after you've done that breathing to slow it down, breathe some more, and then you're going to be like, oh, what's the opposite of that? Okay? So it's going to take some practice. Don't be alarmed if you don't get it right the first time. Okay? Remember to be gentle with yourself like you would a friend, and I can't emphasize that enough, because you don't want to beat up on yourself, and then that's going to keep you in your emotional brain, and then you're not going to be able to remain logical and then look at the individual parts to break it up. Okay? We know that we have the identifying event, we have our thinking, the thoughts that we think and speak out loud, we have our emotions, what are we feeling in that moment, and what are the behaviors? The behaviors are the actions that we're doing. And so those are the parts that you want to have and break it into, but you need to stay calm, because if you don't, then everything's going to be negative. Okay? So once you have your breathing under control and you're remaining calm, you're able to stay in your logical brain, okay? Logical brain is what you normally use when you're interacting with others. When you're going throughout your day, you're able to make decisions and you're not all emotional, okay? So you want to make sure you remain in your logical brain. Your logical brain is going to help you to see all of these different perspectives of the situation. Versus if you're emotional, you're going to miss a lot of things. And then that's where you have the I shoulda, I would've, I could've's. When you go back and you think on it and be like, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Because you were not in your logical brain. You were in your emotional brain. And that's going to lead to doubt, second guessing yourself. And then you're going to continue to feel stuck and that you can't progress. So you have to slow things down. Breathing will help you to slow things down and to stay in your logical brain so that you can help yourself out. Okay? It's important. Sometimes we don't have someone there to help us. So you need to be equipped so that you can help yourself out. And so remaining calm will do that. It'll allow you to have a different perspective and remain logical. Okay? There's a saying that we counselors say among each other, especially if we have a client that we're dealing with and either the client is difficult or their presenting concern is one that has you stumped. And so we tell ourselves, take your emotions out of it and then look at the facts. So if you keep your emotions out of it and look at the facts, then you're able to dissect it and look at those individual pieces and say, oh, okay. And then you can give the client a summary and say, oh, did you notice this about your situation? Did you notice this about your situation? And so that's why I presented that particular scenario from my childhood, because there were different parts to it. And that way you could see all the parts. Because now, looking at hindsight, if I had the emotional intelligence, I wouldn't have never locked myself in the restroom. I definitely would not have gone in the restroom and looked in the mirror and talked to myself. You know what I'm saying? I would have been like, okay, go tell your mom, and she can give you some encouragement or say, okay, you'll do better next time, or, you need to study. And then that would have been something, that would have changed that around for me. So because I had those emotions, and then we're trying to deal with things on our own and not having the right tools. And so then we go down the wrong path. And that's why parents, it's important for you to have that relationship with your children and that communication. So that way you know where they are emotionally, and if there's some things that you need to retrain and help them to rewrite in their life so they don't carry that on into adulthood. Okay? So you want to take your emotions out of it. Doing this allows you to be aware of the situation in a calmer state. Okay? So you want to remain calm. A lot of times the situations that we encounter, they're not as bad as we think they are. Like, I thought it was the end of the world. The world was not ending. Really? Because I made an F. And guess what? I'm not the only one and won't be the last one. Okay? So there are kids that are going through the same thing that you went through when you were an adult. So if you can catch your child, you can help them to be emotionally intelligent as adults, and as they grow up, and even as an adult, it's not too late, because you can go from this point on and be emotionally intelligent. Okay? So you want to do some breathing, you want to remain calm, and you want to break your situation into those components that I mentioned: the triggering event, the thoughts that you think or speak, then your emotions and behaviors. Okay? And then you look at each one of those. Okay? And when you have those broken up into the smaller pieces, it allows you to be aware that, oh, okay, I got a handle on this. I need to do this, instead of, start worrying and going into panic mode and fright mode, because it's not going to benefit you. The situation is still going to be there. So you might as well be calm and look at it from a different point of view, a different perspective. Okay? These will allow you to ask yourself some questions like, what do I need to do? Are there any immediate solutions that I can do right in this instance? Is there anything that I can do now or do at a later date? Is there anyone I need to contact? Or another one that most people don't think about is take a nap. When you take a nap, that allows you to get some rest, to stop thinking about the situation. And then when you wake up, you can have a fresh perspective on it. It keeps you from being reactive. That way you can be proactive. So let's go back and look at my situation. So when I said I can't get anything right, what's something else that could have been said instead of that? So instead of saying I can't get anything right, I can say I'm going to try hard next time. It's just a test. There'll be more tests. I'm not a failure. I just need extra help. I can ask my teacher for help, or I can ask my parent for help. So those are all things that I can say that's positive, and that would have kept me from being sad. That would have kept me from feeling defeated and hopeless. Had I said, oh, I'm going to ask for help or ask my teacher if I can take the test again. That would have instilled hope. That would have kept me from being negative. That would have kept me from thinking that it's the end of the world. That would have kept me from thinking, oh, I'm stupid, I can't get anything right. But had I known that, and had I known to give myself those positive words, the scenario would have came out differently. I wouldn't have locked myself in the bathroom. I would have been like, okay, let me see what I can do. I can still go outside and play. I don't have to be sad. The world's not ending. It's another day. So when you look at those thoughts that you have, for every negative thought that you have based off of your situation, you're going to write a positive thought or a positive statement. Okay? So for every negative thought you have, to retrain your brain, you're going to write a positive statement. And then once you write that positive statement, think about the emotion, the feelings that that positive statement invoke within you. Does it make you feel like, oh, I'm more in control? I got this. Things are not as bad. I'm still hopeful. So when you go back and you rewrite each of those negative thoughts that you have, you're going to write a positive thought and you're going to identify the feeling that it invokes within you. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to repeat those positive statements over and over again. Remember earlier I said affirmations, profession, confirmation, confessions. So your new thoughts, your new ideas that you have written to overrule or to combat the negative thoughts that you were thinking about your situation, now you're going to begin to say those. I have clients, I have them do it like it's medicine, because words are containers for life or death. And so what you speak is what you begin to see back in your life. So I have clients rewrite the thought, and then I have them repeat it like they're doing taking medicine. Okay, you're going to do it 3 times a day. In the morning when you get up, when you go on lunch, you're going to repeat it. And before you go to bed, you're going to repeat it. And I also want you to repeat it with the same feeling and emotions, intensity that you would say it when something negative occurred. Sometimes it's even good to get up and walk when you're saying it. That way you can put emphasis on each word. So if I had to pick one of these, I would say, I can do this math. I got it. So if I was going to walk with it, I would walk, and the first word is I. So I would put emphasis on the word I and say, I can do this math. And then I would continue walking, and then I would go to the second word, I can. And so that's going to help you build up that intensity and those good emotions. In a way, you're kind of hyping yourself up. You're going to be your own hype man. And so you're going to do that with each word until you get to the end of that phrase, that thought, the new thought that you've written to combat the old thought. And you're going to do that 3 times a day. And then sometimes you have to increase it. Every time you think about it, say it, repeat it. And you want to use the same emotions. And then once you do it, it's going to settle within you till the point that the next time you're in an event that could be negative, you're going to begin to hear yourself say that. And then you're going to speak it out loud. And that's going to keep you from having self-doubt, the woulda, shoulda, couldas, okay? Because you can't go back and change. And so when they say hindsight is 20/20, it's because you've had time to process what was going through. So this is teaching you to process the event in the moment as it is occurring. Okay, or just after it has presented itself. So that's why you identify, oh, that's negative. I don't like this situation. I don't feel good. You're going to pay attention to what you're feeling in your body. And so whatever that negative thought or word that you speak that comes out of your mouth, you're going to take a deep breath, and then you're going to automatically go and say something positive, something that's opposite of what was said to combat it. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to take some practice. And if you want to do it and be consistent with it, you'll see how your life will change and it'll level up from that situation. And then you can say, oh, I can apply this to this and this. And so that's a key that you can have. And then once the key doesn't work, that lets you know, oh, I need more skills because this other situation I'm facing, I can't use that. I have to learn something new. So it's important to have a coach, a mental health counselor to help you walk through that. But I felt inspired and led to do this based on what we're going through. And people are facing hard times financially. You know, your thoughts can run off with you and you'd be like, oh, am I going to be living under a bridge? Am I going to get evicted? So this is what you can do to help you to combat those thoughts. So if you're thinking, oh, am I going to be evicted? That's a negative, that's a thought. And it can go negative if you take it there because you've been laid off or you don't have any income in. And then by you taking a deep breath and saying, okay, I've been laid off. I don't have financial resources at this time coming in. Take a deep breath. What's something that I can do so that I have some finances and resources coming in? I can check the city or state that I live in and see if they have resources posted on their website. In every state, there's a Red Cross, Salvation Army, a food bank of some kind. It may have another name. Here in Houston, in Texas, we have it called Houston Food Bank. So in another city in Texas, it may be called something else. So whatever state you're in, it could be called something else. So those are places that you can go to help meet some of those needs instead of taking it negative and feeling depressed and sad. And it keeps you right here because now you have a game plan. You have some things that you can do. Unemployment office. Okay, I can't get through and I really need this money. Instead of saying, you know, it's over, just say, okay, take note of what time did I call the unemployment office? Okay, it was at 11:30 a.m. Okay, and it's busy and I've been calling and calling, it's busy. So, okay, instead of saying it's over and I can't get through, let me go and check and see what time they open on their website. Okay, they open at 7. Okay, this is my game plan. I'm going to make sure I get a good night's sleep. Set an alarm on my phone, 5:36 a.m. I'm going to get up and get dressed with intention because you want to do like if you had to go to their office, but you know that you can't, but you still want to be in that mindset, that frame of mind that you are. And then you're going to have your alarm set. Okay, start dialing at 6:55 and let it keep ringing until it picks up. So that way you're in the first queue and you have better results, a better chance of someone picking up instead of being in the queue and waiting. Okay, so that's something that you can do and how you can apply these steps to. So remember, after you identify your situation, you're going to breathe. And then whatever thoughts, recognize that thought that you said or spoke, you're going to breathe to keep yourself calm. And then you're going to identify what emotions am I having. Okay, and you know that it's all triggering from the thought that you had because of that event. So you're going to breathe and then you're going to go back and you're going to say something different than what you spoke or thought. And that's how you're going to retrain your brain. And you're going to do this 2-3 times a day, every day, until it becomes automatic. And you find yourself in a situation and you automatically begin to say something positive. Okay? So I hope this helps you guys. I wish you guys peace and prosperity. And may you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul, your mind prospers. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.